I'll jump right into an intuitive reading
Let's go for it.
and I'm going to talk to you just like I would talk to anybody else. Okay.
Sure.
So if any client ever booked a call with me, they're not allowed to leave a message on the booking. They're not allowed to say anything. Anytime somebody gets on the call with me, all I want to know is their name and that I have permission. Okay. I do that for a lot of different reasons because A, I'm a skeptic and I'm testing myself and I'm testing God. B, because I don't want biased information. I don't want you to regurgitate a bunch of information of why you think the reason you're screwed up or whatever it is. Okay. Because it's never usually that. But when I do intuitive readings, I hyper focus on what's getting in the way of your potential, what needs to be healed in you. Even if you think you've worked on it, if I'm seeing it, it means it's still there on some layer or some level. First, I'll tap into your subconscious thoughts. I'll see what your default system is. What do you keep repeating in your mind? Then I'll look and see what it's attached to, maybe physically in your body, relationships, money, sexually. It doesn't matter. I mean, I have no idea what's going to come up until I tap in, but we will talk about it and I can dive deeper. I can track it to see where it came from. When did you start feeling this way, thinking this way, viewing the world this way? That matters because that's the source. That's the root. When I do this, I want you to know that I am not talking to spirit guides. I'm not using astrological, numerology, tarot, anything like that. Not that those things are bad. And I'm also not going to be talking about a bunch of woo-woo bullshit. I'm not going to say, in this past life, you have this karma connection. That's all bullshit. Okay. Quite frankly, it can sound really cool and people say a lot of woo-woo stuff. Sounds great. Does it really help you? No. Is it verifiable? Can you get multiple confirmations right now? Probably not, which means it could actually twist you up. Now, it's not that I can't do those things. I just feel like the market's very flooded with it. And I feel like if I never have an opportunity to talk to you again, what could I say to you that's actually going to give you some information to help push you or propel you into your potential? That's my only angle. Okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So first, I want your permission.
You have my permission.
Say your full name for me.
Kevin Cuttrow.
Give me just a second. Okay. You have a default system of feeling vulnerable, attacked, shut down, which then makes you feel like a failure. It's a default system in your mind. You repeat this a lot. So you really push yourself not to be a failure. And you consciously, you're kind of a good cheerleader about trying to pep yourself up, but subconsciously is the problem. You're acting against your own beliefs, feeling like life is unfair, almost like a victim to your circumstances. But this is a very old belief system, so we're going to track that in just a second. Holding on to some unresolved sadness and grief from your past. This is also affecting your bladder, by the way. You're having some issues with your bladder. There's some inflammation in there. And I'm going to tell you what to do to clean that out. But first, I'm going to see what it's attached to on the energetic side. This is your physical manifestation of that. So anytime you feel like there's some agitation, irritation, like you're peeing all the time, like it's not coming out enough, you need to pay attention because that is your body paying attention to you, that you feel like a victim, you're feeling like a failure, being shot down. You're feeling very vulnerable. And so that's why it's going into the bladder, because also the bladder is affected by the sexual organs. So sex is going to be vulnerable for you. Okay. Because you're allowing to be penetrated energetically and also physically. Okay. That's why it's affecting your bladder. Give me just a second. Let's track this down. But I'll give you a physical supplement that you could take to correct that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just a second. Show me why he's feeling this way. Ooh, I'm getting chills. I'm getting emotional, actually. You have a lack of freedom. Feeling like some of your decisions have been taken away from you. Challenged in relationships that feel heavy and unyielding, not fruitful. Trying to push things away. Limiting what you're going to allow into your life now, which is a defense mechanism, but you're also limiting the good stuff too. You can't turn one thing off without turning other things off. Okay? It's a mastering of a skill set, and you haven't done that yet. So if you're trying to turn off negativity or certain people, you haven't mastered turning off one or two things. You're turning off multiple things. If you want to be open to your potential, you have to be okay with the ugly and the beautiful, the darkness and the light. And you're trying to limit certain things, but you're limiting it all. Okay? Oh, you've been doing that for a long time too. Yeah, you have difficulty receiving great things, but you want great things. You can see how this is a self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Feel overwhelmed. Too much to handle all at once. Okay. So let me track this down. So 13 and 14 is when you made a big shift in your thinking. It's where your subconscious mind started to change That's when you started to feel victim to your circumstances and very vulnerable. But it's actually when it programmed, when you started to view this world this way, you had enough evidence of it. And now it's programmed into your brain to where now the brain has to prove itself right. This has been such a long default system. So that means that your brain has to find evidence to keep you safe. I want you to think every relationship, every career, every position you've been in, how much you felt vulnerable. And then you can lead to being a victim of some kind in your mind. People effing you over, like all of these things. Okay. This is a problem because your brain's going to look for those situations. And for you to reach your potential, we have to delete that from your brain so that your brain can hyper focus on better things, more positive things, right? Because right now it's hyper focused on, see, here we are again. We're a victim. This is how it is. And it's just showing up over and over again and making your physical body and the bacteria in your bladder being very vulnerable and susceptible. Okay. Tell me about when you were about 13. What happened in that transition?
I think I probably was realizing that I was gay.
It was about that age?
In a French Catholic family.
Okay. And do you remember what made you feel so specific to feeling attacked and vulnerable, shot down?
Probably because I'm the only grandson on both sides of my family.
Was there comments being made? Because this is very specific about being attacked, shot down like a failure, going against your beliefs.
Yeah. So I knew I wasn't going to take over my family business. I wasn't going to pass the family name. I think that was.
Were they making kind of comments and attacking you about that?
Yeah. Without realizing that it was affecting me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, this is where you lost power. Okay. And you made a decision, you programmed your subconscious brain. But I want to talk about the losing power thing. Okay. And I want to give you, because you grew up in a religious household. Okay. Let's talk about being damned. What do you think that means?
Yeah. So I never felt it as in.
But what do you think the definition of it is?
It means not being worthy.
Let me give you a new perspective. So in the scriptures, they were referencing a lot of water rights because everybody were farmers back then. They understood water rights. That's why they used it in metaphors. Okay. So when you come here to this world, you're like a powerful raging river. And any powerful raging river can get dammed up, can it? Whether it's man-made or natural, it doesn't really matter, does it? No. But the original spot of where that dam occurred, whether, let's just say, some lightning hit a tree, falls down into this river, that's the beginning, right? The river changes. It can divert. It cannot flow as powerful. It's still moving forward, but it's lost some power here. Mm. And then all the debris that's coming down the river is now piling up on that, isn't it? And that can determine how much this dam is now. So this is actually what the scriptures were talking about, people being damned. It was not that they were condemned, unworthy, going to hell. It was that they lost power. They're not moving forward as powerfully as they could have because something dammed them up. Not that they're screwed. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where you got dammed up. And that was the root in the beginning, is when you changed your mind that these were the circumstances for you. Okay. And you lost some power. So it's like buying a Ferrari, at $1 million and you've only taken it to second, maybe third gear, but you have all those other gears. If you remove this programming from your brain and clean out your bladder, this will help you to elevate. This is what's catching all the other debris. Okay. That's simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not that complicated. You're not that screwed up. Okay. So that's the good news, but this could be a very easy fix. Okay. But this is really what's limiting you to those extra optimization gears. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want some help to remove that, you can always reach out to me. But right now, this is some information that is really, if you hyper focus on this, you can do this yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have any questions for me?
It makes total sense to me. It was the perfect explanation. And I think a lot of people listening will totally get that.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that Christians truly understood some of those definitions and lingos and actually looked into the original language of Aramaic and Hebrew. I was a gospel teacher for like 15 years. So I taught the gospel, and it's very, very frustrating of what the determination of people and their belief systems that are very inaccurate.
This was going to be one of my first questions for you, actually, because
Let's get to it.
yeah, let's get to it. First of all, welcome to Kevjet, the podcast, Robyn.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Thanks for trusting me enough to take a look too.
Yeah, I was looking back at some of your footage, and you talk about spiritual beliefs. And so my first question is just how does that tie up with your messages to your clients and to the people who keep coming back to you? And are they spiritual?
Some are. I actually prefer people who are more atheist, to be honest, because they are logical and they're analytical usually, and they're more about show me the proof. And I love that so much because I'm that way. And I think that a lot of Christians, spiritual woo woo and believers are not very logical. And they actually tend to trust whatever information is like feeding their brain, without discernment of confirmation. Okay. So for me, I really need multiple confirmations because I'm a brat. Whereas other people can just get a random thought and then think, especially if they think they're like woo woo spiritually gifted, they're like, my spirit guide's telling me so, right? Without even checking into it, inquiring, getting multiple confirmations. So like, for instance, when I was doing your reading, you seen me kind of looking up, looking to the side, using my body, you seen me moving my body. I'm looking for multiple confirmations. Okay. So I have a thought and a feeling in my heart and my mind, but I need to have those other confirmations. And so I have multiple tools to do that. And then I ask you a question or I say something to you. And if you're resonating and you're like, yep, that's true. I can't make that shit up. Right. So then I have multiple confirmations. Okay. Now, when it comes to clients and belief systems, spiritual, whatever, I will always explain it in a way for every mind to understand. And I always know who I'm talking to. If you're an investor and you buy apartment buildings, I'm going to give you a metaphor on apartment buildings.
Sure.
If you're an atheist, then I'm going to give you logical science and quantum physics. If you're a Christian, then I'm going to give you scripture so you understand.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It's the message, isn't it?
It's really that, are we connecting? Is this a good fit between you and I?
Do you feel that, like, how do you deal with people that come to you for an awakening or for answers, but you know that they're not open to it?
It doesn't happen very often where, let's just say in 10 years, I think there's only 3 people that have come to me where I'm like, this isn't a good fit for me and you. And it's really that no matter what I'm going to say to them, they think they have the answer or they're arguing. Like if I did a reading like I just did with you, they'd be like, nope, not resonating. And then I'll be like, has your partner ever said this and this to you? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, then what I'm saying to you is there. You just don't want to see it. And if they don't want to see it, I can't manipulate them to see it. And I won't.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen that often. And I think it's because I set terms to my energetic field of what I want to work on, who I want to work with. And so I attract like a magnet.
Yeah. Do you prefer to be in the same room with somebody, or does it matter to you?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't, but I will say this. My face-to-face and hands-on healing is very special to me. And like, for instance, if it was a child with a tumor and cancer, I would want to be there in person.
Of course.
So that I could hyper-focus to shrink a tumor or whatever I can do and put my hands on their body. So that would be very specific. Yes. But when it comes to normal everyday stuff, I can find a tumor through a text message. So it doesn't matter to me as long as I have permission. That's my key.
Do you ever look at somebody and think, oh my gosh, how will I deliver this message to them?
No, but I'll give you the transition from what I did when I used to worry about that. When I was a gospel teacher, religious baggage back in the day, and I was starting to develop my gifts, I used to think that because God was showing me something about someone at a grocery store and God gave me these gifts, like I'm supposed to use them.
Yeah.
And not charge for them either. So I did that for many, many years. And I would stop and say something like, hey, because I would know that why they have cancer and that they got raped, and I would see all that stuff, right? And so I would say, like, that would be difficult. Like, how am I going to approach them? And I would do it in the most gentle way. But the reality is, when you don't have permission and people are not seeking after it, they very rarely will accept it. For years, I would volunteer and give away work pro bono. And do you know how many people took me up on that?
Probably thousands.
No,
Really?
almost none.
Really?
I swear. There's a difference of when somebody comes to you and they're seeking it out and they give you permission. When I do that, I'm getting a lot of information about you, your mind, your physical body, how you're going to receive this. And I'm going to be guided in that way. So the way I'm going to say it to you is the way that you need to hear it. So I'm never worried about that. But if I was to approach a stranger and I don't have permission, very, very different. And that's why I don't do that.
Very guarded, wouldn't they be?
So it's funny because sometimes I'll be at some event or whatever, and somebody will come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I speak to angels and I have a message for you." I'm like, "No, thanks," because you don't have my permission and you're accessing something. That's probably a message for you. I don't need like a middleman.
Sure.
Like I'm very clear and direct about my messaging, you know? And it's just something that I've learned. I think way too many people do that. They're trying to prove their worth and value to others by, trying to show you what I got. And I just don't do that. So
how do you offload in your own personal life? So if you're receiving these messages about people and you're helping people, how do you come home at the end of the day and just be yourself and be healthy?
You know what? To be honest, my taking care of myself is the biggest priority. So I work out 5 days a week. I lift heavy. I spend about $1,000 a month in supplements for my internal physical body. I pray, I meditate. When I'm done, I'm done. I don't struggle like that, to be honest, like with a lot of energy workers and stuff. They're like, I'm exhausted. They're taking on energy. They have to clean them out. That's kind of amateur hour to me, to be honest. And I teach a lot of my students why that's happening. And I think it's one of those other woo-woo bullshit that goes around and they make it as a justification of why they're exhausted or why they're upset, why they're having anxiety, and they're casting off the responsibility that, well, maybe I'm taking on that client's energy. Listen, if you guys are doing this, it's because you have not developed the way that you should. I could be at a strip club with people intoxicated, doing drugs, doing the most darkest shit, cons, scamming people, and I am going to shine clear as day with truth and light. I can be in any environment and none of that is going to affect me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love that you're direct.
And that was,
I love your directness.
huh?
I love your directness.
Oh, I'm very direct.
I love that. And I think,
But I try not to, I'm not like how people are saying stuff. I'm brutally honest. I am not. I am honest with gentleness, but I'm direct with that.
Yeah, I think that's important.
I feel like we could have limited time. And so I just really want to get to the point with you, especially when people pay me a lot of money to spend time with me. And I do not waste time.
No.
We are not going to be chit-chatting or we're getting right to the everything.
Exactly. And so if you get hired on to say by corporations, do you find it difficult if you're in a room full of people, like with all that energy, or do you find it easier one-on-one is, I guess, my question.
It doesn't matter. It's whatever I'm going to hyper focus on, really. So I can use the energy of a room. For instance, if I'm speaking on a stage with hundreds of people, I'm very specific about my energetic field and the terms that I've set to that so that I can connect to whatever I need to connect to. But one of the things I do before I even walk into that room or on that stage is I share my love with them. I share my energetic field for all that are willing or are receptive to that feeling, that frequency. So I'm already vibing with them. So they're feeling something from me as soon as I walk in. And that's true, unconditional, no angles. So I can use that power with multiple people or I can use it for the one. It doesn't matter. Just depends on if I'm being an introvert or an extrovert that day, how much I want to talk.
Yeah, just like any other job, isn't it? You're like, it feels...
It is.
It's how you wake up that day.
It is, yeah. Absolutely.
What's your favorite part of this job? Because it's such a different career to your average person you'd run into on the street. What brings you the most joy?
Oh, this might make me emotional. When I tap into someone, which is every single time, I get to truly see the beauty of them in their darkness and in their light. And the bond that I create with them because I can love on their darkness. There are clients that will tell me because I'll see something and I'll bring it up in a way that they feel like they can share it.
Sure.
I don't just like, oh, hey, by the way, I'll get them to a level of comfort, right?
Sure.
but they will tell me things that they've never told anybody their whole entire lives. Sadistic thoughts, sexual, all kinds of things. And we will find the beauty and laugh about it and do whatever we need to do. But to know that there are other people in the world that have that they literally felt like somebody, they could tell them anything and love on them. There was no angles, no nothing, is like my greatest work, because not very many people feel that way, even with their spouses or their best friends. They wouldn't talk about.
Do you ever feel that like an overstepping of a client relationship? Like, do you have any clients that would come to you on a regular basis and you almost feel like you have to step back?
And I do have a lot of high profile clients. And it's usually my high profile clients that do that, where they constantly want to use me to make decisions in their corporations and things like that. When it's a corporate, like, sometimes I'll sit on a board of a company and advise. Now, that's a little bit different, but if they're asking me constantly personally on decisions, that means I have created a dependency, and that's unacceptable as me, as a teacher and a mentor, and as a healer. Okay. This is another thing that everybody needs to really understand. This is a big problem in the market, because big motivational speakers, all of them, all the gurus, they're creating dependencies, and they use that and monetizing their business. Soon as I see that, I'm done. And what I will do is I will now teach you. I will teach you so that you never need me again, and you never need any of the other gurus again. So it happens pretty quickly. Like if they're, texting me a lot, messaging me a lot, and they're inquiring, that means they're growing and they're seeking. I'm like, okay, now you're ready. Now let me just teach you. Now you're going to develop your own gift. You're going to do it your own way. You're going to get your own confirmation. You are now your own revelator. And if I can't do that for you, and if your other mentors, gurus, spiritual leaders can't do that for you, then they have failed. Not really good for business, though.
It is, though. It really is when you really think about that. How old were you when you realized you could do this and you were going to help people?
I was pretty young. I remember being like 6 or 7 and sitting in a park watching this squirrel in the tree. And I remember having this thought, well, he's blind. His vision's injured. Something's wrong with his vision and he can't see. And then I remember the squirrel falling out of the tree and injuring himself. And then he was trying to scurry around like he was trying to find the tree again. And I knew that there was something to that. And so that's what my very first cue of when I noticed. But I also thought that everybody else was doing the same thing. And then my dad used to call me Dr. Rob, because anytime he got injured or scraped or anything, I would go into the kitchen and make these concoctions to heal him. And I always wanted to heal him. So very early on, I had the desire to be magical, to be a healer. I always had a secret desire to lay my hands on people and heal them. And that's the thing about spiritual gifts that we all need to understand, because everybody has these gifts and they're different for everybody. But pay attention to what I'm going to say to you. Okay. Everybody, is that if you've ever had a secret desire for a supernatural power or a spiritual gift, it's probably because it's already in you. If you're like infatuated with mediums and you love medium shows, it's probably because you're a medium. You should really develop it and seek after it. The sky's the limit. We all have gifts. And what's really cool, guys, is if you get one gift and develop it, you can have them all. You're not limited. I think people think like they were going to need a ton of training too. And that's what keeps them from it. But in all reality, if it's already in you, it's going to come so natural, and you're going to do it so different if you do it your way versus going and getting trained in it. The training can help a little bit, maybe give you a template, but really the beauty is if you do it the way that you would do it naturally without the training.
What kind of training have you got yourself involved into?
So my training, when it came to my spiritual gifts, that was really one-on-one with God and I. I used to fast a lot for spiritual reasons, not for physical reasons. Meaning I would consecrate or set apart my fast for spiritual purposes. And I go into the woods. I go to like the tallest mountain here in Colorado, and I go camping by myself and really like demand. To be honest, I always demand what I need and want in specifics. And I've had some supernatural experiences, and I've been taught a lot from supernatural things. But when it comes to like logical training, a lot of training in quantum physics, frequency-based types of medicines. I started out in herbology, homeopathics, biofeedback, things like that. Because there are a lot of different ways of healing. Just like when I gave you a reading, I tapped in, and I knew that you needed a very specific supplement for the inflammation. Okay. In that specific origin of your body. So yes, I could clean that out energetically and then also on the emotional side, but there's a physical element to that needs help. Now, this is what other people don't get, like other healers or Reiki. A lot of times they're shifting things with energy, but there could be a physical element that still has to be treated. And this is where the education and training should really go on, is that you should have a broad spectrum of tools in your tool belt. So I've had a ton of training in that, brain programming, EMDR, I mean, all kinds of different things so that I have the skill sets to advise and heal properly. Some things I know I can just heal and shift like that in seconds, no problem. But then there are things I know that they need some physical things for or slow time to process. So it's different for everything. But I've had a lot of training in those aspects and a lot of learning, but I do not ever get training on the spiritual side of things, ever. I don't read books on it, nothing, because I don't want to be influenced. I want to be guided naturally.
How do you feel with people that come to visit you with healing and grief?
Yes. I mean, the majority of people, when they finally make the appointment to get with me, they're usually at a place where they feel like they've done everything. They've seen the doctors, the counselors, the therapists, they've tried the medications, they've prayed a lot and nothing's happening. So usually they're at a place of powerlessness, feeling like they're out of control, that there's just nothing they can do. And they're just knocking their head against the wall. And the truth is we all get there, right? But what are we going to do when we're there? So they're in some state of grief. And it's another thing I love about my work is that I can feel that with them and share that with them and cry with them, but also give them the truth, because grief really comes from not being grounded in truth. And so I can tap in and actually see what the truth is, whether it's a past loved one that, or somebody who just died, or truth about why they're here, relationships before this world, not just past life bullshit, but like real deal stuff that can ground them in truth. And that will always give someone peace or freedom.
Yeah. Do you feel that sometimes people come to you looking for an answer or let me reword that question. They come to you in grief, hoping for a different answer that you give them. You give them some guidance and maybe an answer that they weren't expecting. Do they always take that on board? I guess is my question.
For the most part, I've never had like a negative feedback. I would say the only time okay, this has happened a few times, two different things. Spiritually, when somebody especially if they're really religious, and which I love religion. I studied religion for most of my life and I was a gospel teacher. But if they're very religious and I point something out and they can't get past that barrier because it almost shakes them at their core belief system about God or about religion, they will reject it, but usually within a year. I would say they'll come back to me and be like, okay, now I'm finally understanding what you were trying to tell me. And you were right. And now I understand it and I'm getting it. And same thing with my spiritual awakening class. I've had some students who've taken my class 7 times and they say every time they take it, they just have more and more epiphanies because they're like, damn, I don't remember you saying that or talking about this, because it would just go over their head. And now they're like, holy shit. But the other thing is relationships. If I know they're going to get divorced and that they have to get divorced, or this is not their soulmate, they always want to reject that. Always. But they always end up reaching out and saying, okay, hey, I'm in the middle of a divorce and you're right. And, that kind of thing. But it's not like I like that. And it's not about me being right. It's where I've noticed that the mind struggles the most with acceptance, right? Yeah. Relationships are usually the hardest.
How do you deal with your personal circle? So if you're out for coffee or a drink with your girlfriends, how do you stop yourself from saying, oh, and you just go out and give that advice to them? Or do your girlfriends expect that from you?
They do. And I tend not to. I actually don't. Well, this is kind of sad. I actually don't hang out with a lot of people, mainly because I'm very, very busy. So if I'm going out, it means I need to let loose.
Yeah,
I'm going to go out. I'm going to have some cocktails. I'm going to go dancing and I'm going to really just have a good time. And when I'm doing that, the music is super loud and they're not asking me a bunch of things. We're here to dance. So
sure,
that's kind of another reason why I do that. But if girlfriends reach out to me or guy friends, it's usually because they need something and
sure.
they need help and they're struggling and they do want my counsel. But I am limited on time for
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. I've noticed for myself just since the podcast has happened, I ask a lot more meaningful questions among my circles. And so I get some friendship groups that are like, Kevin, this isn't a podcast. Like, why are you asking me? Why are you getting into these questions? But then I come away thinking, if we're such great friends, we should be able to ask those questions.
yes. Hey, and you probably have gotten to this place too, is that I don't like small talk. I actually just find it, you're telling me a lot about you when you want to small talk.
Yeah.
And if you're uncomfortable by me asking you questions like that example, you're somebody that I'll never be able to really have depth with. And I want depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they're just like, usually it's because they don't have the answers, right? And it makes them uncomfortable.
Have you found that you've created your whole circle around like-minded friends? Have you had to let go of friends or family members because you are just on different levels?
I outgrow my circle often. And what I found in these latter years is that most of my circle now ends up being clients of mine. Like for my birthday was just February 27th, and I had like 10 clients fly in just to spend my birthday with me. And we all went to the hot springs and stayed in a cabin for a few days. And it's because they've done so much work. They become clients, students, and then friends versus friends that I grew up with.
Hmm.
And you'll probably find this a little odd. My friends that I grew up with and my family members have no idea what I do for work.
Wow.
And they don't ask. Depth.
I don't find that so odd, actually. I can a little bit relate to that. And I'm born in February as well.
Ooh, are you
I'm an Aquarian. I'm the fifth.
Aquarius?
Right. Yeah. But people don't tend to ask about my podcast show. And it could be because I ask questions. I don't know. When it comes to some tough hitting conversations I've recorded, I don't hear about it.
I know. It's kind of bizarre to me a little bit. Like you'd think they'd be a little curious, like, hey, Robyn, my sister, why are you on Discovery Channel? Why are you being interviewed on thousands of podcasts? You know?
Do they ever ask advice?
You know, I am pretty limited in family now. Both my parents died in the same year recently, a couple of years ago. And then my brother and I haven't connected since. But before that, he would only talk to me when he needed advice, but it wouldn't be spiritual advice. He wouldn't use my spiritual gifts. It would be
Sure.
more like herbology or, something like that or relationship stuff. But when it came to like external families, like in-laws, things like that, they've never asked me a thing about it, which is kind of strange.
It is.
But I'm also pretty discreet about it too. For instance, like even I have 5 children biological, and my 2 youngest sons who are like 18 just learned about what I do for work within this last year.
Wow.
And I took them to a special event where a lot of my high profile clients were there. And my clients, it was like a red carpet event and they kept coming up to me and like hugging me. And then they'd say something to my sons like, your mom has saved my life or changed my life. And they'd be like, who are you?
I love that.
Yeah. And I like that too, because I'd rather it be kind of the icing of the cake versus like always trying to show my worth and value. I'm like, one day you'll figure it out.
It's so true. If somebody's listening anywhere, no matter where they are in the world, and they're listening to this episode and they're like, I need to contact Robyn. She is the one I need to speak to. How would they find you?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find on all the I used to only work in the private sector, everybody, and I've been coming back to the public. So now I'm on social medias and my website is robynthehealer.com, and it's Robyn with a Y. It's very important, or amazing Robyn with a Y.com. You can find me in all of those. I get messages every day. So me or my assistant usually get back to people pretty quickly. This is the first time ever, and this is like very sacred to me. I am doing a spiritual awakening retreat seminar. It's like basically 3D to 5D spiritual gift awakening, but woo woo bullshit. Just the protocols. Let's get to it. This is not a meditative thing. This is, you have work. And I awaken people in 3 days and develop their gifts in 3 days. And I've been refining it for about 4 or 5 years. And I do it privately all the time, but this will be the first time like to the masses. So that's coming up on May 19th through the 22nd in Colorado. We'll all be staying together. It's a very deep, life-changing thing. So if anybody's ever really wanting to develop, I have people coming from all around the world to join us for this. So you can always reach out for that. If you guys have any questions, you can just reach out to me and somebody or myself will get right back to you.
Amazing. I have wonderful listeners and they all love to reach out. So I know somebody will be reaching out about.
Well, good. If you like no bullshit and direct teachings without you trying to keep you going into the next program, so I will never do that. I'll never try to sell you anything. This is it. And I will give you all I got. So there's not like, oh, hey, if you get to that level in the platinum program, I don't do that stuff.
I love that. That's amazing. I love chatting with you. I could chat a whole lot longer and I probably will be one of the ones reaching out to you.
Well, I would sure love that. I could use some more males in my life right now. So you can just reach out anytime. And if you want some help with that brain programming from your reading, you just let me know. And I'm also going to email you about what I think your physical body needs too. Okay.
I would love all the info.